The woman went into labor and gave birth to 10 babies. However, when the doctors discovered that one of them was not a human child, they were horrified by what was inside the woman's womb. On that sunny day, the sky reflected the joy of the long-awaited ultrasound examination. Clara and her husband, Robert, were looking forward to seeing their child enter the world. A woman with an unexpectedly large belly for her early stage of pregnancy exchanged worried glances with her husband. There was anticipation and anxiety in the air, mingled with excitement at the sight of their unborn child. They didn't know if it was a boy or girl, but they already loved their child dearly. However, the recent rapid increase in the woman's abdominal size had caused them some worry. Sandra, Clara's doctor, entered the room with a warm smile, explaining the ultrasound scanning procedures. "Let's have a look at your baby," she said. "Or based on the size of your abdomen, you may be carrying twins," she said, preparing the gel and ultrasound probe. Clara lay back on the examination table. Robert held her hand tightly, without taking his eyes off the monitor. The doctor began the procedure by carefully moving the probe over the patient's abdomen. At first, there was a look of genuine joy on her face. However, as the examination progressed, the doctor's expression became more serious, clearly puzzled and surprised by the findings. "What seems to be the problem, doctor? Is our baby okay?" the mother asked, with obvious concern in her tone. Dr. Sandra whispered something quietly, almost to herself. The husband gently squeezed his wife's hand, and they both grew even more concerned. The doctor instructed them to wait for a moment and quickly left the room, returning shortly later accompanied by other medical professionals. When the team gathered around the ultrasound machine, they began discussing the results. A look of shock and disbelief crossed their faces. The nurse muttered, "My goodness, this is incredible." Clara, unable to bear the tension any longer, sat on the stretcher and exclaimed, "Doctor, please, what is happening?" Sandra approached the couple with a gentle smile and explained the situation. The parents initially refused to believe it, but then they turned pale and became silent. Robert nearly fainted, and the medical staff nodded in agreement. Clara began to cry, tears of shock and overwhelming uncertainty mixed together. They left the hospital and drove home, each step difficult due to the significance of the news. 2 lives were growing within Clara. As they entered their home, their eyes filled with tears and their minds swirled with thoughts about the unexpected future. In the living room of their modest home, they sat, processing the news and the changes that lay ahead. They both looked at each other in a mixture of fear and surprise. "My God, my love, we're going to have 10 children, how are we going to raise them all?" Clara asked, realizing the responsibility that lay on their shoulders. Robert, always optimistic and religious, took her hands and reassured her that they would cope with faith and determination. They turned the spare room into a nursery, installing several cots. 2 cribs for 3 babies and 1 crib for the 4th. The news of Clara's pregnancy quickly spread through the local community. Although they were a modest family from a small village, the community responded quickly. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers began donating clothes, diapers, and other items for the newborns. This wave of solidarity was touching, and every act of kindness filled the couple with gratitude. Hope. "It is incredible what they are doing. We could not have purchased all these items on our own," Clara happily commented. The husband said, "I told you, dear, God will always be there to help us at every step." As the days passed, Clara's abdomen continued to expand at an impressive rate. Pregnancy with multiple children requires a significant amount of physical effort, and the woman was doing everything she could. She felt more heaviness and fatigue than she had ever experienced, as if she was carrying the weight of 10 lives. Her body was transforming in ways she could not imagine, and each movement became increasingly difficult. However, after a few months, the expectant mother began experiencing alarming pains. At first, she tried to attribute the pain to the size of her abdomen and the number of fetuses. But the discomfort only intensified, becoming more severe and frequent. Robert observed the situation with growing concern. He was constantly worried that something might be wrong. Considering the possibility of a problem, the couple decided to have a repeat ultrasound as a matter of priority. They wanted to ensure the safety and health of their children. "Doctor, is there anything wrong with our babies?" "I need to know," Clara asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. The doctor, who had been accompanying the couple throughout her pregnancy, attempted to reassure them by preparing for the next ultrasound. The test was challenging. Due to the fact that there were 10 babies in Clara's uterus and the ultrasound equipment was of poor quality, It was difficult for the medical team to accurately determine the health of the fetuses. As the examination progressed, the doctor's expressions became increasingly serious. Robert held Clara's hand tightly, not taking his eyes off of the doctor's face, which was filled with concern. Suddenly, Dr. Sandra whispered something to herself under her breath in a shocked tone. "My goodness, one of them. Is it really possible?" Her words echoed throughout the room, frightening the couple. "What do you mean?" Robert asked, his voice filled with panic and confusion. Feeling the need for more expert opinions, the doctor quickly left the room to consult with other specialists. Moments later, after the office had been filled with medical professionals, one of them confirmed the troubling observation. "Yes, one of the fetuses is not a typical child," they said. He said, equally perplexed. But at that moment, Clara cried out in pain. The pain and fear, along with confusion and the lack of answers to questions, led to the woman going into labor. "She is about to give birth," the doctor shouted. The medical team acted swiftly, preparing her for a premature birth. Her husband, who was by her side, held her hand, trying to comfort her in the midst of chaos. The situation was beyond what they had imagined or were prepared for. Now, as the arrival of the babies drew near, they faced not only the expected arrival of children, but also painful uncertainty about a 10th baby, who, according to the doctors, was not a baby at all. Clara was placed on a stretcher and rushed to the operating room. Doctors and nurses quickly prepared her for an emergency cesarean section. Robert was instructed to wait outside the entrance to the operating theater. He sat outside, his heart racing in his chest, his hands trembling in silent prayer, pleading for the safety of his wife and children. Then, the birth began. One by one, the infants were extracted from the mother's womb. The room echoed with the cries of the newborns, providing both relief and concern. Clara, despite being under the effects of anesthesia, shed tears when each of her babies cried for the first time. When Robert was finally allowed into the room, he approached his wife, took her hand, and stroked her hair to comfort her, but at the sight of their children, emotions welled up in his own eyes. "They are beautiful, my dear," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. The infants were thoroughly cleaned and placed in incubators, considering their premature state. However, tension still lingered in the air. As the doctors continued their work, 9 out of 10 babies had been successfully delivered into the light. However, there was uncertainty regarding the 10th baby. When the time came to remove the last child, a look of surprise and confusion crossed the doctor's face. "What is this?" the doctor murmured, peering inside the woman's abdomen. "What is the matter, doctor?" she asked, still feeling a bit dizzy from the anesthesia. After some discussion, the doctors and the couple finally understood what had happened. It seemed that what they had found was not a baby, but a fibroid, a growth that can sometimes form in the body, which explained the pain Clara had been experiencing and the premature birth. The woman's body had tried to protect other healthy babies by bringing them into the world early. The tumor was carefully removed, and the couple began to understand the gravity of the situation, although they were relieved that it was not their child. "We were relieved that all of the children were in good health. Despite the fact that they had fibroids, it still meant a loss, as we had always hoped to have 10 children in total. It was strange that one of our children had never existed." After the fibroids had been removed, the doctor approached us and said, "Let's focus on your recovery and taking care of the 9 children you do have." Clara and Robert cried not only because of the situation they were facing, but also due to the emotions caused by the cries of their 9 children, signaling that they were alive and in need of attention and care. Following several months of intensive treatment and a lot of prayer, this significant day finally arrived. The 9 babies were ready to be discharged from a hospital, and Clara and Robert, accompanied by medical professionals, carried their precious children, 5 girls and 4 boys, home to the applause and tears of joy from the medical team. When they arrived home, the couple prepared a special celebration for their family. The nursery that they have prepared since they learned about their upcoming arrival, with 3 beds ready to accommodate the babies. They placed 3 in each bed, carefully arranging them. The room was filled with warmth, hope, and a sweet symphony of murmurs and sighs. Dear viewers, would you like to experience the joy and excitement that Clara and Robert are feeling? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, we would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.